Hi everyone and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Dragons in Dungeons in the Explorer format. Yes, you heard that right. Dragons in Dungeons, because we are playing the only two cards that are dragons that deal with dungeons in Magic. Wandering Troubadour, 4 mana 4/2, that can let us venture if we had a land enter during our turn, and Nadaar, Selfless Paladin. 3/3 vigilance that whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, it gets us one step into a dungeon. And it has the bonus of other creatures we control get +1/+1 as long as we've completed a dungeon. Now you can see next to its picture one of the three possible dungeons. So there's Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which takes a lot more steps to get through but has a bigger payoff. There's Lost Mine of Phandelver. This is like a very medium dungeon. This is like the default one. It's decent benefits and it's faster to complete, especially when we have that incentive to finish one with Nadaar. And the other option is Tomb of Annihilation. This one you can actually go through the quickest, but it's a large cost to do so. So also of note, it has some like life loss abilities that you can potentially force on your opponent. So more often than not, we'll be going through Lost Mine of Phandelver. Now, you may be asking yourself, why are we playing dragons in dungeons? It's because I felt like it. I really wish there was at least like one more dragon that had dungeon abilities. Like it would just really help. But having only two meant we had to get really creative. So, and I don't know a whole lot about D&D, but I have learned more playing the Adventures of the Forgotten Realms set in Magic. And apparently there's a class or like a type of being in D&D called a dragonborn, which is like a humanoid dragon. And so how they're implemented in Magic is they're like dragon and then like a subtype. So dragon bard, dragon knight, so on. So that's what these are. So we had to get creative. Well, here's what I thought. So still wanted to keep with like the dungeon sub theme. So included a little bit more dungeon support with Varis, Silverymoon Ranger, and it gets us, if we cast creatures, we can venture in the dungeon, but it only triggers once per turn. And whenever we complete a dungeon, it gives us 2/2 green wolves. So that combo is nice. The free wolves combo nice with Nadaar's Anthem ability if we can make it through a dungeon. And I have one of Hama Pashar, which can double up our dungeon room triggers. Now, because we have so few of like our impact creatures, I went with a Neoform package. So Neoform, what it says is we sacrifice a creature and we can look for a creature that costs one more mana than it and put it directly into play with the 1/1 counter. So what we have are some expendable creatures, Spirited Companion and Fblthp the Lost, that are importantly 2 mana to help us get these creatures. We can Neoform these away for like Nadaar or something else. And they also each draw a card when they enter the battlefield, so it's like at least card neutral when it's all said and done. So we can Neoform for a Nadaar. And one other crazy thing we have going on in this deck is that it's a mirror box deck. And so this essentially turns off the legend rule for us and gives legendary creatures we control +1/+1. And also has the ability that when we for each non-token creature you control, gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name. So if you could play a lot of things with the same name as each other, they'll boost each other. Okay. So we have a decent concentration of legends. We have Fblthp that benefits from this, Nadaar, Varis. And yeah, so mirror boxes, we're hoping to get a lot of Nadaars into play and go off. We also have some Glasspool Mimics to copy things if we get a mirror box going. Glasspool Mimic can also be found off Neoform. And Trophy Mage to let us search up the mirror boxes. So the last component is we have 4 copies of Karn the Great Creator. It's just a powerful planeswalker on its own. But it shuts down the activated abilities of artifacts our opponents control. And most importantly, it's -2, lets us grab an artifact from outside the game. So for us, that means our sideboard. And you'll see that our fourth mirror box is there. So between Karn, the mirror boxes, and the Trophy Mages, we have plenty of ways to search up a mirror box. But that also lets us play a toolbox to hopefully increase the power level of this deck. We're going to need all the help we can get. We have a Tormod's Crypt to fight against like Greasefang and the Graveyard decks. Pithing Needle to shut down like Planeswalkers and stuff. Shadow Spear is just like some extra offense. Weathered Runestone to shut down Graveyard and Collected Company decks. And Helm of the Host, this is a really ambitious choice, but really hoping to like get Nadaar in play and hook up Helm and really make like a billion copies of it. And we also have one Treasure Vault, which is the one artifact land we have, which lets us, in a pinch, use Karn to grab an extra land. But yeah, that's the plan for Dragons and Dungeons. We have no interaction. We're just trying to turbo out our dungeony dragons and win the game like that. So I will see you in the games. All right, so not the greatest hand. In retrospect, maybe should have mulliganed, but I mean, this is what we signed up for by building a horrible deck. So already we are not so happy about that opening for the opponent because it's going to be turn 3 5/5s from here on out that we'll be battling. So not so great when we have nothing going on. Okay, Fblthp, that's actually pretty nice. It gives us something to actually do in this turn, and we dig a little bit deeper. And go ahead and decide to play the Glasspool so we can have mana for something next turn. Yep, and so here's Lovestruck Beast. So here come the parade of large creatures. So trying to figure out what to do here. Thinking that Boseiju might be useful against them because of the Great Henge. End up playing Karn in a spot. Unfortunately spent the first couple of games not realizing. So I thought Wandering Troubadour had a landfall trigger, but it's actually an end step trigger that checks if a land entered at all during your turn. So we could have just played Troubadour here and started, just added a little bit to the board, maybe warded off some attacks. So I think Karn was ill-advised here, and you could see I'm struggling to choose what to pick and end up just grabbing a Shadow Spear. So not a great turn. Yeah, I think Troubadour would have been a lot better for us because could at least threaten the double block. I mean, they have like fight spells and stuff, so it may not have mattered. And here comes Great Henge. So it's a good thing we saved Boseiju, but we're not like in our spot right now. So I'm playing optimistically here. Obviously, like I'd love to Neoform Fblthp into something, but the 5/5 can't attack unless they have more 1/1s, and then they get another 1/1. So it ends up not working out well for us. But I was going for upset. I was thinking maybe we could buy some time by destroying their 1/1, even though it gets rid of our Neoform fodder. So Great Henge cannot stay alive. I mean, we're already massively behind. With they have 6 power on board, we have 0, and we just give them another free land, and they have a creature land, so it's looking incredibly bleak for us. But just trying to make the best of it. Not only that, but they have another 5/5 waiting in the wings. Yeah, it might have been in a lot better spot if we already had Troubadour on board. Might have had a little higher life total. Like Karn and the Shadow Spear just not doing anything for us. Now, I don't think we would have been in a good position by any means, but I think we would have been in a better position. So you could see here, I play that, then play the land, thinking it's landfall. Lost Mine of Phandelver is like the most medium of the dungeons, but it's also the one you pick most of the time. Like we're definitely not gonna make it through dungeon the Mad Mage, and oh yeah, and the opponent plays a 12/12 trample and another 4/4 trample, and then top it off with the fight spell. So we are mega dead. That's it. All right, next game we'll see if it goes a little better. This hand is looking a lot better, but we see the dreaded Angels opening. So we have essentially zero interaction. So it's going to be tough for us. Not only that, but it's looking like we're missing on land, so it's looking grim. Okay, so we draw a tap land at the very least, and then the dreaded turn 3 Righteous Valkyrie. One of the best cards in their deck. It basically turns on all their synergies. Now here we get to do something nice. We get to Neoform into Varis. Now Neoform gives a counter, and Varis has reach and ward 1, so it's actually not horrible in this situation. It holds off their flyers for a second. Now, very unhappy to see another Righteous Valkyrie because their life total's creeping up towards 27. 2 of them out, it's gonna be trivial for them to reach that. So I'm already pretty nervous about that. Decide I can't sit back on defense. I need to trim their life total. So go ahead and attack. And fortunately, we can follow up with our dungeon going dragon, Nadaar. Once again, just jumping into Lost Mine of Phandelver. We don't have a mirror box, so we'll ship the other Nadaar away. Okay, so Nadaar enters. We get to take another step in the dungeon. Decide a 1/1's not doing anything. Like, they have all flyers, essentially. So decide to create a treasure token, maybe open up some options, future turns. Play the tap land. So that wasn't too horrible. I mean, they could cast one angel and send themselves over 27. So fortunately, it's one of their low toughness angels, so they don't get there. They don't turn on the anthem effects from the Righteous Valkyrie. So, but we're still like right on the edge of things going really horrible for us. I mean, they have 4 mana now, so they might be able to Collected Company. Now, I'll almost make a sequencing mistake here. You can see my mouse hover over the combat button. Realize that actually it's better to cast 1 creature pre-combat to trigger Varis. That way, once we attack and we get Nadaar's dungeon attack trigger, we could trigger Nadaar's anthem effect. And yeah, maybe it was better just to choose the drain mode. Anyway, I chose the -4, -0. Yeah, so here comes the last step. We get to draw a card, and now that a dungeon has been completed, Nadaar is giving all of our other creatures +1, and Varis gives us a wolf for our trouble. So we're actually like doing what we hope to do. Now, unfortunately, the opponent gets an easy block right there. I'm contemplating what to do. It might have been better to pre-combat Neoform the Spirited Companion into our one of, I think it's Hana. Anyway, the one that doubles dungeon triggers. So end up deciding to just turbo out Karn the Great Creator. Now, unfortunately, there is something good we can grab, and that's Weathered Runestone, but we have no mana to cast it, and they can just, if we grabbed it, they could just Collected Company next turn. So I decide to just grab a Shadow Spear instead. If we had the mana, definitely would have grabbed the Runestone. So they do have the Collected Company, and it's a nightmare scenario. So the Angels send them up over 27 life, activating the anthems. Also turns on Speaker of the Heavens, which fires it off again. So we had them at 19 life. They just, with one spell, get themselves, gain 40 life, put like 20 power on board, and then increase by like 20 other power on board. So opponent actually had the kill right here. They have a 14 power of attackers. We have 0 reach blockers. So I figured they let us live. We're going to get our money's worth. So this part's being fast forwarded, but we're already dead. There's nothing we can do. So just, having some fun, playing some spells, but we are mega dead. Now we're in the next game. Not an amazing hand. Treasure Keeper can get us our Mirror Hall, and we can Neoform it into our Wandering Troubadour. So that's the strategy here. The opponent is doing much bigger and grander things than us with the Magma Opus hitting the bin. That means there's probably some Torrential Gearhulks in our future. And they also have the really strong Fable of the Mirror Breaker turn 3. So we're trying to top that with our Trophy Mage, searching up our mirror box. So it's going to be hard for the opponent to top that. So they pitch a Gearhulk and another Magma Opus. So getting pretty nervous seeing that 4th land hit, and they have already 1 treasure. So it's just not feeling great. They have just so many bombastic spells, and like they get to cast them extremely early. Okay, so opponent takes down our Trophy Mage, and then is able to clear the way for an attack, get another treasure. So we're already firmly in the danger zone here. Okay, so there's a ray of hope though. Karn the Great Creator for our Tormod's Crypt could lock out their treasures and nuke their graveyard and buy us some time. So I'm feeling pretty excited. And then they censor Karn. That was incredibly devastating. I didn't know that deck even really played counter spells at all. I thought it was all in on just turboing things out. So that was incredibly sad. So we almost got a chance to just lock them out for a period of time. Instead, opponent just keeps on keeping on. Yeah, so they hard cast a Shark Typhoon, and we're in big trouble now. We have nothing in play. We were needing that Karn, because if we nuked the graveyard, we could have made their Gearhulks ineffective, and possibly could have even shut down the treasures for a while with Karn. So that was a very disappointing censor. But we have Mirror Box boosting Fblthp to a 2/2, so it's not all bleak. Yes, opponent is just making sharks, drawing cards. Yeah, and we have no means to catch up with this. They'd have to draw all lands. We'd have to draw absolutely incredibly well. Oh yeah, and not only that, but they also have the Mirror Breaker, who can make extra sharks. So yeah, so we're effectively out of it. So I actually make a poor play right here. I block the Treasure Maker Goblin, because in my mind, I saw the Neoform. I know we could get the Reach creature, but I forgot that I wasn't thinking about Mirror Box acting like a glorious anthem. So if we got the Reach creature Varis, it would have got the +1 counter from Neoform, +1 from Mirror Box. So it actually would have been a 5/5 Reach, which would have been amazing. So I think that was a really poor block from me in retrospect. Yeah, because we could have had Varis and then a Trophy Mage in play, and that's a much better block on the Goblin that makes treasures, the Goblin token. So yeah, so jump into the Lost Mine of Phandelver once again, and it's a copy spell, which is good with the Mirror Box, but we're in trouble with opponent can make another flyer, so it's a pretty big mistake by us not getting Varis into play, not realizing it would have been a 5/5. However, we soon see that it would not have mattered at all. Opponent casts Indomitable Creativity, fetching up 3 Torrential Gearhulks, and yeah, we don't need to see anymore. We are mega dead. That was a lot of Magma Opuses about to hit us. All right, on to the next game. So even though our deck is not doing that much, it's letting our opponents go off in explosive fashion. We got to see a 40 life point and like 40 power gain from Angels off one spell. And then we got to see Indomitable Creativity put 15 power on board and it was about to deal like 12 damage to us. So now I'm very happy seeing the opponent stuck on one land. We'll soon see that it's actually not something to be happy about. But I'm like thinking that we're dodging like some crazy ramp start. So we don't have a lot going on. We have, our 2 mana draw card creatures. So opponent finds a second land and just keeps sending out mana dorks. So I'm pretty happy that they're not putting us under pressure. Opponent then thought seizes us and gets to stare in bewilderment at our hand. They're pondering what to choose, and they take our Wandering Troubadour. So an opponent is down to 13 after all the shock lands and the thought seize. So we draw an incredibly good draw. We draw Varis. So before we cast it, decide to chip in for some damage. Opponent has a free block. So now we can play Varis, tap land, and start getting some dungeon triggers in subsequent turns. So, feeling decent about that. And then it all suddenly makes sense. Bolas's Citadel comes down. And that's 2, 3. So 3 spells and a land drop, but one of those spells is Collect a Company. So anyway, they just had an absolutely explosive turn, and we could see that the game has just instantly slipped away from us. So the thing about Bolas's Citadel is you can tap it to sacrifice 10 permanents to ding your opponent for 10. And so with that other enchantment in play, I'm forgetting the name of it. Anyway, we're almost essentially dead right now. One more creature in play, we'd already be dead. One more creature in play from the opponent, I should say. So we get our one step through the dungeon, which is not very comparable to how their last turn went. So, and now we are mega dead with Woe Strider because that allows them to filter the top of the library. And so Now they're getting the sort of blood artist creatures in play. So in addition to Bastion of Remembrance, so we're super dead already. They could just crack Citadel right now and kill us. So we go ahead and concede. All right, so snap off the next hand. We see Kahira in the opponent's hand, so it could be like elementals or cats. Most likely control. Because the Kahira companion requires, I think, like 4 different creature types. So it could be elementals, cats, nightmares, or like, what's the other one? I can't remember the other one. So, but yeah, seeing the blue-white lands, we're playing against control. So far we've seen every opponent just absolutely going off against us. We'll see if we can actually do something. Now, I was really worried about a censor there, but we had a second copy of Nadaar. I contemplate Tomb of Annihilation for a second to try and turbo through it, but ultimately just decide to do the Lost Mine of Phandelver. Tomb can also be a good choice when the like Punisher effects of the dungeons rooms can like actually like make your opponent's life difficult. However, this early in the game, the Punisher effects aren't, they aren't going to do anything to them. All right, third land. So this is where they get their generic counterspell mana. So they have their absorbs, their saw it coming, any number of things that they could play. Deciding between a 1/1 creature and a treasure. End up choosing the treasure. Maybe should have just chose the 1/1 just to try and keep the pressure on them. Not only that, but it would benefit from Nadaar's Anthem ability. So not sure if that was correct to get the treasure, but I am a little worried about a Wrath at this point. So I decided to fire off the Neoform, mostly because I know it's going to spook our opponent. Like, usually Neoform's like a combo card, and so I know we're just going to get some lame dungeon creature, but they don't know that. So anyway, they end up using Dovin's Veto, and we so eventually realized, I still have enough mana to cast a new Fblthp. So I'm trying to decide whether we need that treasure for later, but so I know actually we can just cast this right now. We got plenty of mana, and it can make it under any counters at the moment. So now it's great seeing a second copy of Karn the Great Creator there, because we know they're going to hold open mana and counter at least one of them. So it's going to at least tie up their mana so they can't like develop a little bit more. So Nadaar is really doing work here. We can see that we are almost through the dungeon. Yeah, so opponent's holding mana up, and I don't know if we like spooked them with the Neoform, like if they're worrying about that again. So we go ahead and fire off Karn, which is something they're going to want to deal with. Yeah, and so they have the absorb for it. We don't care that much because, like I said, we're just trying to tie up their mana and just keep them from doing much to us. Now, I realize after the fact that it could be that there's like a Wandering Emperor that's somewhat stranded in their hand, because Nadaar has Vigilance, and we keep casting these like typically high impact spells like Neoform and Karn the Great Creative. So I wonder if they're too spooked to like let us resolve something. They don't know that we're actually not finding very powerful stuff with either of those, and so now we finally make it through the last step of the dungeon, which turns on Nadaar's Anthem ability and draws us a card. So it's feeling pretty good right now. So we get them all the way down to 8, and decide to just play a mirror box here instead of Karn, hoping that they consider it like low priority and just let it happen, which they do. And so mirror box is like at its baseline a legend, a legendary glorious anthem. Anyway, I was hoping to mirror box and like play the next Nadaar, and then all of a sudden they're like really boosting each other. So feeling decent about our situation here. So opponent's contemplating. And then the unthinkable happens. We win a game. All right, so that was Dragons in Dungeons. And we got beat up pretty badly by a bunch of decks, but somehow managed to win a game against Blue Eye Control. So we will definitely take that. The deck felt definitely underpowered. Like I said, would have really loved like an extra dragon creature that deals with dungeons. Um, it could be that we were just way too ambitious with the whole mirror box plan. That it might have been better to just skip this and fill it out with more utility creatures or interaction. So that would open up some slots if you ditched Karn and mirror box. You could add some interaction and maybe try and like battle through some of these other decks. So, but it was really fun neoforming into like Varis and Nadaar and stuff like that. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments about Dragons and Dungeons. And yeah, appreciate you watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.